Transactions internally keep track of the operation mode they are in at runtime. That is, if they are in insert mode because the instance of the information being handled is about to be inserted. If they are in update mode because the data of the instance being handled is about to be updated. Or if they are in delete mode because the instance is about to be deleted. For example, when we run the one-level transaction, attraction, we see that it opens with all fields empty. The operation mode it will be in depends on the value entered in the identifier. We have already seen that leaving this field triggers the process that will search the database for a record with that primary key value. If it exists, then it loads all the screen fields with the values obtained from the database and remains internally in update mode. This way, if any changes are made to the fields, for example, this one for category, and confirm is pressed, what will be done is to update the database record. We see clearly in the message that the mode was update. On the other hand, if there is no record with this ID, then it clears all the screen fields and remains internally in insert mode. It knows that when data is entered and confirmed, it should insert the new record into the table. And so it informs us in this message. As the primary key is auto-numbered, it will not have inserted it with value 0, but with the next available number, and that is why we see this 3. Lastly, to delete a record, we must first edit it while in update mode, and then click on the delete button. At that precise moment, the transaction switches to delete mode. If no referential integrity check fails, it deletes the record and goes back to clear the screen. We said that the transaction program internally maintains this mode. It will do so in a variable named nMode that every transaction object has predefined, and that we can see both from the source as well as from the specific variable section. When the transaction is in insert mode, this variable will be automatically loaded with these 3 characters. When in update mode, with these others. And in delete mode, with these. The developer will be able to query the value of this variable within the transaction code to, for example, execute something only when it is in insert mode. This will become clear in the next video when we study transaction rules. But to make this much simpler and avoid having to remember these arbitrary values assumed by the variable, GNexus allows us to translate all this into something completely intuitive. And so it gives us the 3 functions: insert, update, and delete, which respond with a truth value, true or false, using the Boolean data type from logic. Thus, the insert function will return true if the value of the variable is ins and false in any other case. The update function will return true only when the content of the variable is UPD, and delete when it is DLT. What matters is that from these functions, we no longer need to remember those values. If we want something to happen when the transaction is in insert mode, we can simply write if insert to specify that it is only in that case. We will see examples when we study the rules in the next video. Now then, what happens with the modes when a transaction has more than one level? It's clear that if no record is found in the table for the identifier value of the first level, the transaction will be set to insert mode. That means it will wait for the header and its lines to be entered. When confirm is pressed, all records will be inserted, both the header and each line. If we ask for the insert function for the header, it will return true, and the other functions will return false. The same answer will be given for each line. However, if we enter an existing value, the record from the country table and the records from the city table will be retrieved. And while the transaction as a whole will be in update mode, with the variable set to that value, where the function at header level that will answer true will be update, what will happen with the lines? It might want to delete the first one, modify the second, and add a third one. In all these cases, the AND mode variable will contain this value, UPD, because it doesn't depend on the operation mode of each line, but on the header, which encompasses everything. We don't have a mode variable for the lines, but GeneXus does maintain their state internally. So the insert, update, and delete functions will correctly indicate the operation mode of each line. Of course, the AND mode variable will take the value DLT only when, while editing a country and its cities, the delete button is pressed. At that point, both the header record and each line record will be deleted from the database. So the delete function will return true for all of them. We have now seen the AND mode variable, which always keeps the mode of the transaction header, which encompasses its lines, and the Boolean functions that allow answering both for the header and for each line if it is in a given mode. In the next video, we will see an example.